The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your host, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Hail, hail, the gang is all here. Father's Day weekend, so hey, to all the dads, hope you have a great weekend. Coming up on this weekend's edition of CRN, hey, is Ford thinking about joining Formula E? Maybe. Special helmet for one superstar racing experience driver. We'll show that to you if you're watching CRN live on YouTube. Record-breaking times at one track this weekend. Highly possible. We'll tell you which one. Silly season talk, already an issue in Formula One. Got some new odds for who might be able to claim the 2023 Cup Series championship. You know, if you're a betting person, it's racing. Not sure why. Kyle Busch Motorsports fills out the 51 trucks season with a driver announcement this week. How many teams is too many teams in Formula One? Got an NHRA milestone. A former Xfinity champion wants to come back. Got all that and so much more coming up on this weekend's edition of the Championship Racing Network, live after this.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Gotta love strange headphones. Anyway, hey, welcome into the show. I'm Steve West, along with the yawning Matt Nicholson and producer John Myers.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, man. It's early in the morning here as we go live, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time, and it doesn't help that you're afflicted with a migraine.
No, not
So
at
there you
all.
go.
But hey, we're gonna dig through it.
We're going to fight through this one. We got plenty to recap. Let's go ahead and do this right now. Drivers love to gain wins at what they call first ever events. For example, the first time a series goes to a particular track. And that was the case for the Xfinity Series last weekend. They went to Sonoma for the first time ever, which is strange because you would have thought that they would have been there. But
Yeah.
nope.
Yep.
Never been there before last weekend. To nobody's surprise, Moonlighters dominated. Kyle Larson grabbed the pole, swept stages 1 and 2. He was actually leading second place Eric Almirola, Moonlighter, by 13 seconds when Jeffrey Earnhardt bowed out of caution with less than 20 laps to go. The resulting restart clean. Almirola was able to keep within sight of Larson. When on lap 72, Larson made an uncharacteristic mistake. Going into the turn 11 hairpin, he went in too hard, got into the tire barrier. That allowed Almirola to gain the lead, and he'd go on to claim the kind of unexpected win. Unexpected not because of Almirola, who's proven to be a decent road course racer, but because he pulled off the first win in Xfinity competition at the track for a team, RSS Racing, who has never tasted victory in the Xfinity Series. Now, there's a caveat, or an asterisk, if you will, because it should be noted that the car that Almirola was driving technically was entered by RSS, but it was prepped by Stewart-Haas Racing. I don't think they're going to care. RSS Racing is going, that's our car. We won. Moonlighters, as I mentioned, dominated. Almirola wins. AJ Allmendinger second. Kyle Larson ends up rallying back to third, beating Ty Gibbs. All of those guys, Cup Moonlighters, making up the top 4. Parker Kligerman, Cole Custer, former Cup driver. Justin Allgaier, former Cup driver. Austin Hill, Sammy Smith, and Sam Mayer all in the top 10. Nothing new in the standings, obviously, with the Moonlighter winning. 7 slots locked in. They are Austin Hill, John Hunter Nemechek, Cole Custer, Justin Allgaier, Chandler Smith, Sammy Smith, and Jeb Burton. Josh Berry leads the way for those that are in on points. Then you got Sheldon Creed, Sam Mayer, Riley Erbston, Daniel Hemrick. Hemrick sits 18 points to the good over Parker Kligerman for that 12th and final playoff spot. Not what anyone would call a comfortable 18-point lead.
Not even close.
We'll see what happens. Time's getting tight. Saturday night, things got rolling in the weather-delayed New England NHRA Nationals in Bristol, Tennessee. I know. In Top Fuel, newly inducted Bristol Hall of Famer Tony Schumacher made it into the finals against Justin Ashley, but Ashley had the quicker reaction time. That was the difference. Ashley gets the win, 3.846 ET elapsed time, for those of you that are fairly new to the show and new to NHRA, 324.12 miles per hour at the line. The legend John Force and Funny Car pairing off against Bob Tasca the third. Force had the quicker reaction time. Tasca, though, better car. Gets by. Force just past the Christmas tree. Gets the win with a 4.032 ET, 322.96 miles per hour. Those were the only two. Neither Pro Stock car nor Pro Stock motorcycle were racing at the New England Nationals. So we'll get back to them and the points. Sunday's racing actually begins with the end of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. It was, all right, think about it this way. It was year 100 for the famed endurance race. Marked the return of Ferrari after they had been away for 50 of those years. And Ferrari pretty much picked up right where they left off. Bested Toyota for the overall win, all part of the Hyperclass division, featuring racers with hybrid powertrains. It was a way for Le Mans to allow more U.S. entries, as it turns out, from the INSA series into the race and create more of a worldwide participation event. And the Italians still won. Toyota came in with a 5-year win streak in the race, had to add weight to their GR010 racers in order to get them in compliance with the new rules, so that hurt them. Ferrari brought in some 499Ps. They took advantage, and when Kamui Kobayashi crashed out overnight, those chances of the win improved that much more. A Toyota GR010 did finish second, trailed by a Chip Ganassi Cadillac for the overall podium. As for that car that we were talking about for most of the weekend last weekend, the Nascar, Hendrick Motorsports, Goodyear, Chevrolet, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, Pepsi, Coca-Cola entry, the Garage 56 car, they were able to finish all 24 hours. They looked as though they actually might beat the entirety of the GTE AM class until they had a brake issue with 5 hours left that cost them a chance due to the time that it took to fix those brakes.
I thought it was a powertrain issue. With
They
the
also, as it turned out, had a transmission issue. So they had both. They had to change out the brake system, and they had to work on the transmission. They ended up finishing 39th out of the 62-car field, and when you lump them in with the GTE AM class, they were 10th. Although technically they're not part of that class. So it's Garage 56. I guess they just kind of went, it's about the closest equation we can get is that car would be close enough to the GTE AM class. Anyway, 47 of the 62 cars that started the endurance race were able to actually finish it out. Back out to California's wine country, where the Cup Series took to the track. One driver, for one of them, it was one of his more dominant wins. He led 51 of 110 laps, claims his second win of 2023, his fourth overall at Sonoma. That driver, producer John's driver, 2018 Cup Series champion Martin Truex Jr. That fourth win is by far the most of any active driver at Sonoma, behind only Jeff Gordon's 5 for the most all-time for Cup Series drivers at that California course. It's also Truex Jr.'s 39th career Cup Series win. And, well, at the end, almost a 3-second gap over Kyle Busch. Ouch. Then it was Joey Logano, Chris Buescher, Chase Elliott, A.J. Allmendinger, Michael McDowell, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Ross Chastain filling out the top 10. Strangely quiet day for Ross Chastain, considering this is a track that does tend to lead itself to beating and banging.
You know, after that Darlington garbage, let's call it that, he's been quiet as a mouse.
He really has. But the thing about it is, he doesn't seem to have really lost that much. We continue to pretty regularly talk about him in top 5 and top 10.
He really hadn't. But backing up to Xfinity to answer the question on social media of Brock Beard, he's a reporter.
Oh, sure.
To answer the question about
what is the
car that that's the RSS had, it is actually Stuart Haas chassis number 058 with a 98 stamp on it. So it's a Riley Earps car.
Well, there you go. And now you know. Let's see. What are we looking at points-wise? Well, how about William Byron and Kyle Busch leading the playoff drivers? Got 3 wins each. Now with 2 wins, Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Larson. You got your single-time winners in Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, Danny Hamlin, Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Those are all obviously in seeding order. The remaining slots filled out in seeding order by Ross Chastain, Kevin Harvick, Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski, Bubba Wallace, and Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman slips into the playoffs here. He is a slim 3-point advantage over Daniel Suarez for that 16th and final playoff spot. For a guy who won the Sonoma race last year, he kind of fell flat on his face last week.
Yep. Here's another funny one, too, that RSS had.
Yeah.
The chassis that Alex LeBay drove, the number 29, which I didn't realize they had a 4th car in there.
I didn't either.
RCR chassis 0411.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got. How about back to Bristol for the Thunder Valley Nationals finals? You know, the race that was actually scheduled to race at Bristol. Top Fuel, Justin Ashley taking on Antron Brown in the finals. The pair were almost identical off the light, but Brown lights the tires up, and Ashley goes on to the win, his second win of the weekend, 4th of the year. 3.718 ET, 336.49 miles per hour. He now has 9 Top Fuel event wins in his career, and basically he's just gotten started. He only started his career just a couple of years ago. Funny car came down to a battle between Alexis DeJoria and Ron Capps. Capps with a big advantage off the light. Basically, DeJoria was asleep at the light there. Cruises on to the win, 3.998 ET. Capps ran at 325.45 miles per hour. Gives him the most wins at Bristol of any driver in NHRA history. The win marks his 74th win of his storied funny car career. Erica Enders taking on Derek Kramer in the Pro Stock Car Finals. Enders has the faster reaction time, uses that to her advantage, gets her first win of 2023, 44th win of her career, 6.680 ET, 204.08 miles per hour. And then it was Gage Herrera and Steve Johnson from nearby Birmingham, Alabama, as we broadcast live from East Central Alabama. Herrera red lights pretty badly, actually. Don't know why. Steve Johnson gets the win, marks a dozen for his career. The Birmingham-based racer makes the winning run at 7.174 seconds at 158.63 miles per hour. Basically, knowing he had the win, he saved his bike. Justin Ashley leads Top Fuel points by 64 over Steve Torrance. 122 back are Brittany Force and Austin Prock in a tie, and Antron Brown is 5th, 134 from first. Ron Capps leads the funny car points by 32 over Matt Hagan, 57 over Robert Height. Chad Green, 72 out. Alexis DeJoria, 5th, 83 out. That's about the tightest of any of the 4 major Camping World Drag Racing Series divisions. Dallas Green leading Pro Stock Car by 139 over Derek Kramer. Matt Hartford's 193 back. Troy Coughlin, 208 out, and sitting 213 points out is Aaron Stanfield. And if you think that's a big, big discrepancy, wait. There's more. Gage Herrera in Pro Stock Motorcycle had a rare non-event win this season, but still sits 216 points above second place Eddie Krawick. Steve Johnson's 224 back in third. Hector Arana 242 out, and Matt Smith 5th, 248 from first. Basically, they all need binoculars.
What's the gap?
Yeah.
Too much.
Way too much. First to second, 216 points. As mentioned, it's Father's Day weekend here in the United States. It means a very limited slate of races. No NASCAR. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what's not coming up later. Here's the 2 things that are coming up. That's right, 2. They both happen on Sunday. Pirelli Grand Prix of Canada for Formula One on the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. 14 turns, 2.7 miles long. It's a road course right near Montreal, Canada. Rain is probably going to be more of a factor than the Canadian wildfires, as it turns out. ESPN will have the coverage starting at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central Time. Right after that starts, Indycar gets going into the action with the Sancio Grand Prix at Road America on the long 4-mile-long 14-turn road course in Wisconsin. We got stories about that coming up. It's going to be on the USA Network. No, not NBC. And the IRN radio network beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central Time. So with only those 2 events of the major series that we cover, Cup, Xfinity, Craftsman Truck Series, Formula E, and the NHRA all got the weekend off.
They get to sit back and watch TV.
Sure. And I would bet more than one of them are actually going to be watching at least one, if not both, of those Formula E and IndyCar races.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just saying. Tell you what, let's go ahead and take a break a little bit early here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the Cup Series because BetMGM, thinking that you might be crazy enough to bet on something as highly unpredictable as racing, has updated their odds for who might be hoisting the Cup Championship for this year. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about a pretty interesting penalty that was handed down during the race last weekend to one Tyler Reddick. Details on that and so much more on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers here. Father's Day weekend. Hey, whatever you got planned, hope you enjoy it. Have a great time. And you know what? Maybe Dad actually doesn't have to actually pop open the grill and cook his own meal on this particular day. Maybe.
But it's so fun.
Maybe. Could happen. Who knows? Welcome into the show and appreciate you joining in. And if you're a betting person, I will say this. This is for entertainment purposes only. I'm not advocating it by any stretch of the imagination, and quite frankly, if you're betting on NASCAR, I think you're absolutely out of your mind. But here we go.
You're dumb.
Yeah. More power to you if you do, though. And secondly, here are the latest odds from BetMGM as to who they think is most likely to be your 2023 Cup Series champion. After he began the season, according to them, at 13-2 odds, or, 6.5-1, I guess. Kyle Larson's improved to 5-1 odds to host the Cup Championship and be a two-time champion.
I don't know.
I see where they're going with this because they're basing this on what they've seen so far. But how many times have we seen somebody be hot right now and cool off as you go further on into the year? I'm not saying it will happen.
Be hot right now, and literally when the playoffs start, they
disappear.
jump into an ice bath.
Yeah. So I'm not saying it will happen to Kyle Larson, but all right. Kyle Busch began the year at 6-1 odds. He was the favorite at the time. Now, 12-1. What have they seen from Kyle Larson over Kyle Busch that makes them go that? I think it might have kept Kyle at 6-1.
I could see Kyle be more of a 7 or 8-1 than a 12-1.
Sure. Speaking of 7-1, William Byron began there. He's now also 12-1. Okay.
This next one's where I have the problem. How can you jump this one at better odds than the previous two when the previous two have been more consistent?
Denny Hamlin began the year 9-1. He's now 8-1. Huh? Okay. How about Martin Truex Jr.? That's right. John Myers' guy. Producer John's guy. Opened up the season 14-1. He's now 8-1.
I see him more being like a 10-1.
Okay.
Well, he brought home the paycheck this past week. That's all I'm going to say.
That's all they're basing it on.
Out of those, if I've got, let's just say I've got $200. Somebody says, "Here, go place odds on somebody just for fun."
Yeah,
fun and giggles. If I'm taking that $200, I'm going to place them on Busch at 6-1 instead of 12-1.
Okay.
I put them on Busch at 6-1.
That being said, 12-1 gets you better money back. Just saying.
True. But the better odds.
You looking for ultimate long shots? Couple of names for you. How about Ty Dillon? He began the season at 200-1. It's only gotten worse. He's now 1,000-1. And quite frankly, I'm not really sure. I'm thinking that odd might be optimistic. Harrison Burton and Noah Gragson are also sitting at 1,000-1. Stewart Haas Racing's Ryan Preece sits at 500-1.
That's a sympathy odd at 1,000-1.
I would tend to agree with you.
Sympathy.
Penalties for this past week. Now, we didn't get one in the middle of the week. So, in other words, no major points docking, massive fine, suspension penalty. What we did get was a penalty in race for a driver cutting the track short. We don't really have to generally talk about that because it rarely happens, but it had to. When Tyler Reddick, last weekend at Sonoma, had the left front of his number 45 car go down, whatever, with 14 laps to go, as he was going through turn 11, that hairpin that's got that, island in the middle, for lack of a better term. In other words, going through turn 11 means he's just gone past the entrance to pit road and the commitment line. So he was in a quandary. He thought about it, hooked a hard right, cut across that island, making up turn 11, and got into the pit road and got his tires changed and did all that. NASCAR had two ways of looking at this. NASCAR was highly complimentary of Tyler Reddick's quick thinking, knowing that to make his way back around the almost 2-mile long track would have wreaked havoc on the leaders because he would have been very slow. And secondly, over the course of 2 miles and turning left and right and all that, likely would have begun tossing debris all over the track. At the very least, tire tread. At worst, that tire tread would have just started flapping around and cutting up a quarter panel or a fender. That's not good. So they said, yeah, congratulations on the quick thinking. But you cut about 90% of the track off, and that's a clear rules violation. So we had to penalize you. So after Reddick got his tires changed, got back out on the track, he was ordered to do a pass-through penalty. He did. He finished the race 1 lap down in 33rd. But, and I agree with Reddick on this, he didn't regret what he did. He said this, quote, I thought morally it was the right thing to do. I didn't know who was leading at the time, but I knew there was no way I would have made it around the racetrack had I gone the full course. By the time I got to pit road, it would have gotten in the way of the leaders. It would have all been a real mess. I'd do it again, even if I get penalized or penalized worse. I'm not going to ruin someone's race, especially as it turned out being Toyota teammate Martin Truex's day. I'm really glad we didn't bring the caution out there by going around the racetrack and potentially changing the outcome for those guys. I get it. NASCAR has the rule.
Yeah.
But I also get they're actually kind of complimentary of the quick thinking of Tyler Reddick. I mean, there's really, I guess it's too black and white to be able to balance it out and say, you know what, he did the right thing, but there's a rule against it. But for this time, we'll suspend the penalty. I guess you can't do that.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to back up to the betting part here.
Oh, okay.
Something that I saw that I seen came through on the 11th. It was after the race was. It was after the race was over.
Last weekend, Sonoma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody shared that through Barstool Sports, and no, through Caesars. Excuse me.
Okay.
They played a 2-leg parlay. They picked Eric Almirola to win the Xfinity race, and Truex to win the Cup race.
That's a heck of a parlay.
$25 they put on it. The odds were 300 and plus 347 200. They turned $25 into $86,825.00.
I want him to pick my numbers for my next lottery ticket.
Yeah. And here's another parlay they played, but they missed it.
Okay.
Eric Almirola to win the Xfinity race,
So they got that.
but Larson as the top Chevrolet and Truex as the top Toyota. If they had hit that one, it would have been an additional $60,400. You take $50 and turn it into $141,000. No, $147,000.
I'm not saying that gambling cannot work, but as a general rule, it doesn't. Just saying.
Most of the time.
Let's get you some pictures here where Spire Motorsports has gotten a little bit of a shot in the arm sponsor-wise for the aforementioned 1001 long shot, the 77 of Ty Dillon. They've added Raise Energy to the car, a primary sponsor for 6 races over the rest of the year. You can see the car courtesy of TobyChristie.com on CRN Live on YouTube right now. Last year, Raise was on Corey LaJoie's number 7. This year switches to the 77. They're going to highlight 2 of their products, 3 races each. The Raise T product for the races at Nashville, Indianapolis, and the Roval, and then their Raise Energy shots at Atlanta, Darlington, and again at Homestead, Miami, as they build upon their Energy Drink of the Year win. Who knew that there was such a thing back in 2021? And let's face it, you got to make some headway in a very crowded field of energy drinks. So, Energy Drink of the Year?
I've tried Raise.
Have you?
It's pathetic. Carry on.
Tell us how you really feel, Matt.
Well, combining with a migraine and being on one today. Yeah.
I
That's how I
gotcha.
really feel.
Yeah, I got you.
It's pathetic.
Legacy Motor Club surprised everybody earlier on this year when they announced they were going to be switching from Chevrolet to Toyota for the 2024 Cup season. Thing about this is, 7-time Cup Series champion Jimmy Johnson, ever since he joined NASCAR way back in 1998 in the Xfinity Series, has been a Chevrolet man. Has never driven anything but that. So will the co-owner of the team continue to race in 2024? Well, we haven't heard from Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson seems to think that he's potentially going to race, I don't know, forever. According to TRD president David Wilson, yeah, 100%. Wilson added, quote, "You will see him in a Toyota. This will be a very moving and emotional for me personally, professionally, and for Toyota. Now, I'll let Jimmy fill in the blank, but I'll just say that Jimmy Johnson will be racing a Toyota Camry before he is done as a race car driver." Again, Johnson has yet to comment.
That's probably the stipulation when they signed the contract. Hey, we need Jimmy to drive a Toyota one time.
Yeah. I mean, no disrespect to either of the two drivers for Legacy Motor Club. Or I'll even go so far as to say 3, considering Noah Gragson is out and Grant Enfinger ran.
It's clear.
Jimmy Johnson's the main name. Period. End of sentence.
Just like Richard Petty has been for Richard Petty Motorsports, Petty Enterprises, Petty ABCDEFG.
Sure.
For the many years as it has been. Okay. He's a namesake.
Yeah.
And it's clear, it's evidently clear that Chevrolet has pulled resources already from them.
Oh,
now
God,
that they've announced they're going to Toyota.
Yeah.
Why not just go ahead and say, we're just going to take the little chop saw, chop the nose off the car, take the Camaro off, slap a Camry on, and be done with it. You might as well.
It's an interesting idea. Toyota probably would be all in on that.
I mean, yeah, they got a contract to fill out with Chevrolet. Yes, but
That goes two ways. Contracts are two-way streets, folks.
they are. They clearly are, but you've got to hold your end of the deal up with Chevrolet's got to hold their end of the deal up with factory resources and factory backing or lack thereof through the remaining part of the year.
Yeah.
You have no choice.
I agree. Well, we'll find out how things go. That guy who missed out on the 2011 Cup Series championship by losing a tiebreaker, set to be celebrated at Nashville Superspeedway next weekend. Carl Edwards, scheduled to be part of the festivities by first appearing at the Fan Zone stage. He'll answer questions from the drivers and be celebrated as one of NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers. One of the better drivers ever at Nashville, by the way. He claimed 2 Truck Series and 12 top 10 finishes in 13 Xfinity Series races, winning 5 of them in his career there. Yeah, not too shabby, considering the fact that the Cup Series, while he was an active driver, never ran at Nashville. So, yeah, he still did pretty well. And here's another picture for you and our final couple of stories here from the Cup Series. Beard Motorsports, we don't talk about them much because they've gone part-time, but they've added a race to their 2023 slate of events, choosing, predictably, another super speedway race. In this case, Atlanta, as you can see on CRN Live on YouTube. That's thanks to Beard Motorsports social media for that particular look right there. Originally, their 2023 plans were to run both Daytona and Talladega races. That's typical. They also plan to run Michigan. Somewhat atypical, but I get why they would go there. They also said that we're going to run the Roval. One of these things is not like the other. Anyway, Austin Hill will once again pilot that number 62 that you see with the Atlanta sponsor being Bennett Transportation. That's probably a pretty good approximation of what the car is going to look like
Because
later on this year at Atlanta.
Bennett is literally right up the road from Atlanta Motor Speedway, so that's kind of not of a surprise to me.
Yep. And one more note in the Cup Series here where 2311, no, not 23 by 1, Racing co-owner Michael Jordan got himself a little bit more money now, like he needed it, and a little bit more time to be able to go to Cup Series races. He has sold most of his majority stake in the NBA's Charlotte Hornets. According to NBA sources, the sale price, a little check for $3 billion with a B dollars. That's not the 100% stake in the team. That's just a majority stake in the NBA franchise for $3 billion.
Apparently,
$1 billion.
apparently, part of that group is country music singer Eric Church.
I could believe that. The main portion of the buy was split by minority stakeholder Gabe Plotkin and Rick Schnall, who is selling his minority stake in the Atlanta Hawks to move into minority ownership of the Hornets operation. Jordan bought the controlling stake in the Hornets 13 years ago. He says he will keep a small stake. Of course, it has to go through the approval process of the NBA Board of Governors and all the other owners in the NBA, but I get the funny feeling it's probably not going to be that much of a problem. $3 billion, huh, Michael?
The Jordan brand
saying.
makes that much alone.
You
Just
could
saying.
throw a couple $100,000 my way. I wouldn't sniff.
I'm thinking to myself that right about here, if you're watching on CRN Live, would be a good place for a Jumpman logo. Just saying.
And you people think Denny Hamlin's closet looks bad with Jumpman logo stuff? I will have Jumpman logo, CRN logo shirts in 35 different colors.
I'll put it on my car.
Sure. Put that big Jumpman logo right on the hood, like, primary sponsorship.
Put it on the back door.
Considering
Call us. Call that guy.
Considering
right there. He's our salesperson. Call that guy
considering that I've rekindled myself with behind a 5-point harness. I'll take a Jordan Jumpman fire suit.
There you go. See, now we're thinking.
That's the ticket,
I'll
baby.
take some Jordan Jumpman shoes.
Now we're
Even
thinking.
though they're made by Simpson, they're just got a Jumpman logo stitched on them.
There you go. So, we can work this stuff out. We figured this out. To the Xfinity Series, where I'll call him semi-retired. NASCAR driver Greg Biffle, he won the 2002 title in what we now call the Xfinity Series. Thinking of a one-off return to the Xfinity Series, he took part in a press conference at Sonoma Raceway. Why? Well, he's a Vancouver, Washington native, so not that far away, and it was easy for him to get to Sonoma. It'll be even easier for him to get to Portland, which is what he got to talking about. Xfinity Series, should they return to Portland next year, he'd like to get a one-off ride for that particular race. Last time Biffle ran in the Xfinity Series, 2010, but he does have 244 career starts, 20 wins there, thanks to Getty Images, by the way, for the picture of Biffle on CRN Live on YouTube. I don't blame him one single solitary bit.
No.
It's close to your home. Why wouldn't you want to go do it?
Worth a shot.
Now, that being said, the reason I kind of held up my hand and paused there for a moment is because we're hearing, let's just say all kinds of rumors flying out about the 2024 schedule.
A lot.
When it comes to NASCAR. Here's the thing. We know exactly two things, and we talked about those exact two things on the show a couple of weeks ago. We know when the Daytona 500 is going to be.
In Phoenix.
And we know when the season ender at Phoenix is going to be.
And basically the Coke 600. That's it.
Yeah, that'll be Memorial Day. Literally everything else is up in the air. Nobody truly knows. But it is something we're going to get back to coming up here in just a couple of moments because, well, it needs to be talked about here. A couple of notes out of the Craftsman Truck Series here before we go to break. Within 2 weeks of getting released from his IndyCar ride at Ed Carpenter Racing, Nice Motorsports picking up poor Connor Daly for one race. Nice is going to put Daly in their number 41 Chevrolet Silverado July 8th for the race at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. It's a track he's familiar with from IndyCar. Daly posted on Twitter, quote, Al Nice and Cody Efa have become great friends of mine. I appreciate their belief in me. He's going to be sponsored by Unishippers and Worldwide Express in his third start with the team. Thanks to Connor Daly's Twitter page for the picture that should be coming up sometime fairly soon on CRN Live on YouTube.
Here comes your next defector from IndyCar and stock cars.
With respect to Connor Daly, he seems to be having a tough time sticking in. Despite his talent, he does seem to be having a tough time sticking in IndyCar.
He's one of those, if you put him in a solid piece of equipment, let's word it that way.
Okay. No disrespect, Ed Carpenter.
Solid piece of equipment. Ed Carpenter is not terribly solid, in my opinion.
Maybe some disrespect.
Told you I was on one.
Just a wee bit.
If you give him the shot, I think he can prove himself. I mean, with the what was it, a few years ago? 2017 or 18, one of the two.
Okay.
When he got the start for Roush at Mid-Ohio with Xfinity.
Yeah.
I think that was a fluke because it was just the deal. It was the deal. He had Lilly sponsorship. And then
Which
all
doesn't
all the stuff that they brought up. Oh, your daddy said this 35 years ago. When all that garbage got really going. And yes, it's garbage.
It is.
But
mean, if you're looking that hard, give me a break.
Yeah, then they yanked the sponsorship off the car, and next thing you know, the car goes to junk. Okay, I think that was a fluke. This 41 truck is not a fluke.
No, Nice Motorsports does not build junk.
The 41 truck has never been a fluke.
Nope.
I mean, yeah, is Ross perfect in it? No.
Name a driver who is.
Has he won in it? Yes. I mean, for the love of humanity, Bailey Curry can get in the truck and run top 10. Easy.
Yeah.
And that's no disrespect to Bailey Curry. If you can get in a truck and the equipment proves itself, it's going to tell you who you are. Because how many times have I said on these airwaves, on this show, and on this very YouTube channel, a vehicle will tell you if it's whatever you set in, truck, Xfinity, Cup car, Indycar, USF 2000, all the way to a Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil, Athena. All the way to there. No matter who you are.
Shout out to Greece.
It's going to tell you if your car's the problem or if you're the problem.
That's true.
It's going to tell you real fast. Just like a couple of weeks ago, I sat in that dirt car for the first time in 5 years. Yeah. It was a mechanical problem, and it revealed itself quick. I'm like, I'm doing everything I know to do.
Sure. There you go. So we're looking forward to seeing what Connor Daly can do there. Number one, again, he's familiar with the track, granted in an IndyCar, but he is familiar with it. He does have some Truck Series starts to his career, though, so we'll have to see how that works out. Speaking of Truck Series drivers, probably watching very closely as one of their own, got a chance in the Cup Series. We'll talk about that. And Kyle Busch Motorsports has filled out their 2023 season for the 51 truck. We'll talk about that and so much more next on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into the show, which could be sponsored by the Jumpman logo. Just saying. I'm Steve West. That is Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers along with you. And we're still talking about the Craftsman Truck Series. Truck Series drivers had the day off last Sunday, but they might have been actually fairly watching pretty closely to one of their own. Got his feet wet in the Cup Series. You and I talked about this last week, and we kind of questioned it. We're not questioning Grant Enfinger's talent as a driver, but for them, they needed a replacement driver for Legacy Motorsports, Noah Gragson, going through the concussion protocol. And instead of pulling an Xfinity Series driver up, they went all the way to the Craftsman Truck Series and pulled Grant Enfinger, who's never driven a Cup Series car, certainly not in competition.
They stayed underneath their banner.
Yeah, that's pretty much the best way to put it. So again, as Gragson continues to undergo the concussion protocol, we'll hopefully have an update before next weekend's race as to what the situation is with him. I got to say, I think Enfinger probably acquitted himself pretty decently. He finished 26th and on the lead lap. He improved upon his starting position. He qualified 35th, so he improved 9 positions and remained on the lead lap. And he actually was able to beat out drivers like the Xfinity Series winner, Eric Almirola, Chase Briscoe, and Ryan Blaney. All 3 of them also finished on the lead lap, but they were all behind Grant Enfinger.
Yeah. I mean, he made the most of being thrown to the masses. We'll say it that way.
Yeah. Baptism by fire.
Yeah, he was thrown to it pretty quick. I mean, he made the most of it with virtually no 20 minutes of cup practice in a cup car and 10 minutes worth of qualifying laps.
Yeah.
So effectively 30 minutes worth of driving. Hey, good luck.
Nicely done, Grant.
Hang on.
Congratulations to you. Who knows? Maybe it'll lead to bigger things. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch Motorsports has filled out their 2023 schedule for the Star Truck, that 51 truck. 26-year-old Matt Mills set to take the wheel for the remaining 2 races that were open.
This is a prime scenario right here. It's going to tell you how good you are really quick.
Because we know this is a good truck. 26-year-old Matt Mills will race at Richmond July 29th and Milwaukee Mile August 27th. Not exactly 2 of the easier tracks on the schedule, just saying. Mills has 19 Truck Series starts to his credit. Best finish so far, 15th. It happened last year in Vegas. He's got 1 Cup Series start to his credit, Kansas in 2021, but he finished 38th. Picture of Matt Mills, by the way, that you see on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of Kyle Busch Motorsports. He does have plenty of experience in the Xfinity Series. He's got 121 races to his credit. Does have a top 10 Daytona in 2019. JF Electric is going to be sponsoring Mills along with Utilitra. They've been longtime sponsors of the 51 truck. Likely giving Mills, argue or correct me if you think I'm wrong, but to me, this is probably giving Mills the best equipment of his career to date. And we say Star Truck, and we say that we know this is a good truck. It's been to victory lane this year with Kyle Busch himself. It's also had William Byron behind the wheel, and it's had Jack Wood behind the wheel. Mills just joins that roster. So like you said, if you're going to try and prove yourself, if you really want to come in and make a splash in the Truck Series, this is your best opportunity, young Matt Mills.
This vehicle, let's word it that way.
Okay.
This vehicle exposed Jack Wood really, really quick.
Why do you think Jack's not back?
You can't tell me I'm wrong. You can't tell me I'm wrong. Why do you
I
think
wouldn't.
Jack Wood is down driving I almost said Xfinity. Why do you think Jack Wood is back driving ARCA cars for Rev Racing?
Get a little bit more seasoning there, dude. Just saying.
So, you talking, it's the best equipment of his career to date with the cars that he's driven under the BJ McLeod banner. This is basically 2 BJ McLeod Xfinity cars into 1 truck.
There you go. Something you mentioned last week appears to be getting closer to reality here when it comes to NASCAR scheduling. We're about to dive deep into this. The Jacksonville Jaguars potentially calling Daytona International Speedway home while renovations take place to their regular home, TIAA Bank Field, in Jacksonville, Florida. Daytona President Frank Kelleher got to talking to the Daytona Beach News Journal. You know newspapers. Remember, kids? Ask your parents. Over the weekend, last weekend, one team representative said that they are set to meet and discuss the possibility of them coming to Daytona. Daytona stands, according to one report, host 101,500 people. I'm sorry. It hosts more than that. Anyway, it's less than 100 miles south of Jacksonville. It does seem to be one of the better options for something close by while a $2 billion project to update the home stadium gets underway. Actual stadium improvements, $1.3 to $1.4 billion. The rest would go to help develop the area around the stadium grounds, according to all the plans. All this would be a joint effort between the city of Jacksonville and Jaguars team owner Shad Khan. Jacksonville would be taking on the bulk of the costs over the 2-year project if it is approved. And if it is to be, the Jags obviously would need another home stadium. Daytona, again, close by. Not too far away, Gainesville, Florida, so you might be able to go to Ben Hill Griffith Stadium, the home of the SEC's Florida Gators, otherwise known as the Swamp. Yeah, it's got an actual name, Ben Hill Griffith Stadium. Then there's Camping World Stadium in Orlando, which they play, what is it? What's that bowl there?
That would be the Citrus Bowl.
Yeah, thank you. I knew it was one of those. That's really about the best options, truth be told, because the only other two options are either going to be minor league or college baseball stadiums, and each of those, to meet NFL requirements, would have to have at least 20,000 seats. So I find that highly unlikely. And I think just for the fact of the novelty of it, I mean, yeah, we had, what was it? Was it Tennessee, Virginia Tech that played at a modified Bristol?
Correct.
But at the same point in time, it's not really a novelty to have a pro team spending a little bit of time in a college stadium. We've seen that before.
All right.
To have them play in the infield between Pit Road and the Tri-Oval at Daytona,
In the ballpark, yep.
let's face it, at the very least, that's a novelty.
It is. So you've got from TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville to Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee.
Ah, yes.
That is
Although that was not mentioned as a possibility.
That is 2 hours and 34 minutes.
Okay.
From
Again,
TIAA.
about 90 miles, because we've taken that drive. We've taken the drive from Jacksonville down to Daytona. It's about 90 miles.
From TIAA Bank Field to Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, 1 hour and 23 minutes.
Okay, that's a much better option.
Okay.
Orlando is not. I guess Orlando would probably split the difference between Ben Hill Griffith and Tallahassee.
It is actually further mileage-wise
Okay.
from TIAA Bank Field to Daytona than it is from TIAA Bank Field to Gainesville.
Okay, I could see that. And then Orlando, granted, Jacksonville to Daytona is pretty much a straight shot down 95, whereas you would have to flip on over and go down I-4, assuming you were riding.
From TIAA Bank Field to Camping World Stadium in Orlando, 2 hours and 3 minutes.
Okay. Now, Shad obviously can charter a plane and do a nice little hop.
He charters a 747 everywhere he goes. He's got the money.
You could do a nice little hop from Jacksonville to Orlando. You got the airports
Atlas Air
for that.
Charter loves him.
Sure they do. Again, is this going to happen? We don't know. We don't know when this is finally going to get all settled down. And here's the thing. From what we understand, Jacksonville still has not yet approved this entire plan because the city and the city's taxpayers are on the hook for, like we said, the vast majority of this $2 billion plan. But assuming that it does happen, and it probably will, because Shad has not been quiet about his willingness to move the Jaguars should things not go the way that he's looking for them to go. And truth be told, I don't blame him. This is going to be interesting to watch.
It will be. So I would be interested to see how everything, dot your little I's, cross your little T's. We're going to be playing at Daytona for 2 years or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see how they fix the ballpark area for stands-wise, because we know that there are 20,000 people, 20,000 seats right there in the section of the ballpark area, if not 30.
Oh, easy. Yeah,
so
agreed.
You bring in stands to come around to the infield to cover the ballpark area?
Maybe temporary stands. Possibility. It's a possibility. Speaking of which, and this at least has newspaper reports to back it up, in that we've heard from both the Jaguars representatives and representatives from Daytona.
Right.
Other rumors are just that. We talked about it a little bit earlier on. We know 3 things about the 2024 Cup Series schedule. We know when the Daytona 500 is going to happen.
Correct.
We know when the Coca-Cola 600 is going to happen, Memorial Day weekend. We know when the championship weekend, which is returning to Phoenix, happens. Otherwise, all we have heard about the scheduling for 2024 is that they are looking at many, many options. It's not a quote. It's a paraphrase. They're looking at a whole lot of options. Everything is up in the air. And that has led to a whole lot of speculation out there as to what might or might not be happening with the 2024 schedule. Jordan Bianchi recently checked in and said, what, Matt?
There on the schedule part. Wow, I was messing with you. Sorry.
Yeah, it happens. Doesn't she know we're doing a show?
Yeah. Well, there's a little issue. Picked up something in a tire in the brand new vehicle last night.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to go there.
I got you.
Multiple people with knowledge of the situation of how the schedule is coming together. This is from Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic.
Now, I will say this. I trust Jordan because Jordan has rarely stepped in it, so to say, as opposed to some other reporters that we could
And not
talk
been
about.
able to step out of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But at the same time, this is the only source that we're hearing this from. Nobody else is reporting this, which is why we are firmly putting this in the rumor pile.
Let me say this disclaimer before I say this. A lot of stuff he's broken lately, he's not missed.
Okay.
He's been right. So take it with a grain of salt. That's a saying I've heard a lot here the last few weeks.
But maybe a small one, which would be a good thing.
People with knowledge of how the schedule is coming together, the consensus is that the Bristol Dirt Race will not likely be on the 2024 schedule. Check mark. Here's why I put the check mark. That's ran its course.
I would agree.
That has ran its course. Instead, racing at a different track. Neither of these moves are final, as things can and do often change. Whether Bristol's spring date returns to the concrete or shifted somewhere else is to be determined. One scenario laid out to The Athletic is Bristol's date shifting to North Wilkesboro. It would have the first points race since 1996.
Yep.
With them being owned by SMI, seamless transition.
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense.
It does. I agree. And it keeps SMI and NASCAR from having to spend millions of dollars trucking in dirt and packing it down and curating it and keeping it updated and all that, and then turning around and having to remove all that dirt afterwards so that you can go back to racing on the old, regular, normal concrete surface.
Yeah, that never made a lot of sense to me.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to a whole lot of people. Let's put it that way.
I'll see if I can ball this up in 3 minutes. But there's more.
I'm sure there is.
After years and years of the same old tired schedule, NASCAR has adopted a greater approach of flexibility in how and where it schedules events. As the quality of racing has deteriorated on intermediate sized ovals using previous generation car, I disagree. NASCAR moved away from intermediates to road courses where the competition was better, prompting fans to seek more types of these tracks.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Let's face it.
I'm going to call 50-50 on that one.
Yeah. Sometimes the racing is better. Other times,
The result is oval races that Charlotte, Michigan, Texas, Indianapolis, Chicagoland, and Kentucky were dropped, while road course races were added at the Roval, Circuit of the Americas, Road America, Downtown Chicago, and the Indianapolis Road Course, in addition to new oval tracks in the untapped markets of Nashville and St. Louis. I disagree with Nashville. It's a constantly tapped market.
Yeah, Nashville was tapped.
See, I'm a fan of this move because I prefer the road course over the oval any day.
I disagree.
Okay.
I respectfully disagree.
You know, he's entitled to his opinion.
Sure.
But, okay.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely he's entitled to his opinion. But there's such thing to me as too many. I would say 4 maximum.
Yeah.
Not 7.
I can see that, but I'm just saying I prefer to watch a road course race over a oval race any day of the week.
Well, and I'll say this. We had on this show, in all of its forms and in all of its homes, said there needed to be more road course races. Now, what I had said at the time was that, hey, we got a 36 race schedule, which we still do, 36 points races. You break it down 12, 12, and 12. Put 1 road course in the first third, 1 road course in the middle third, and 1 road course at the end third.
Yeah.
Make sure it's in the playoffs, because over the course of 10 races, if you're going to insist on doing the playoffs thing, make them run the gamut of the different kind of tracks that you run on.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't think that they were going to go from 2 to 7.
Yeah, I know.
We'll talk more about this on the other side on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Hour number 2 underway. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers here with you, and we're talking about scheduling. I got to say this. I've never been a big fan of the Bristol Dirt Race. I don't have a problem with NASCAR going and racing on dirt. Let me make that perfectly clear. I was just never a big fan of them throwing a whole lot of dirt on an existing asphalt, or in this case, concrete track.
I never was either.
Especially considering the fact that SMI, owners of Bristol Motor Speedway, granted not on the grounds of Bristol Motor Speedway, but on the grounds of several others tracks that they own,
Vegas,
have very, very nice dirt track accommodations.
Texas,
Charlotte,
3 in particular.
So yeah, you want to go dirt racing, by all means, go dirt racing. Do a dedicated dirt facility. Stop spending a ridiculous amount of money to throw a whole lot of dirt on there, and then you got to turn around and spend a whole lot more money cleaning it off.
Now, I give a tip of the cap for trying a second dedicated dirt track.
Okay.
In Knoxville.
Okay.
Didn't work because Knoxville is too flat.
Yeah. This was what? Truck Series?
Trucks.
Yeah.
Knoxville's too flat.
They went to Eldora.
Eldora worked quite well.
Yeah. Truck Series went to Eldora. That was what returned NASCAR to dirt. Was the Truck Series going to Eldora?
Name me one thing other than Tony and NASCAR disagreeing with something that didn't work with Eldora. Name one.
Got a hard time coming up with one.
You can't.
So
let the Truck Series have dirt on their own because it was the spectacle of every year that everybody looked forward to. Let them have their moment in the light. Use Eldora as their moment.
But like I said, if NASCAR wants the Cup Series and or the Xfinity Series for that matter to go dirt racing, fine. Go to a dedicated dirt facility.
All right.
Period. Then comes, and I don't have a subscription, so I'm sorry, Athletic. I'm not paying you to find one story. But I was given a link to a story that The Athletic posted, and it wasn't by Jordan Bianchi, by the way, that gave a proposed 2024 schedule, which did take away the Bristol Dirt Race, took away the LA Coliseum, and put the duels in Las Vegas.
The duels?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry.
The Clash?
The Clash at Las Vegas.
No, that's stupid.
I was not a humongous fan of that. Then they decided to go ahead and throw in North Wilkesboro immediately after Daytona. You do realize that North Wilkesboro is in the mountains of North Carolina, right?
I wish I could find where that was, that link.
There was also in there, from as far down as I could see before it said, you don't have a subscription, you can't read any further. They wanted to put a race. Again, this is the proposed Athletic 2024 Cup Series schedule. They had the Cup Series going to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, where they're running the Canadian Grand Prix this weekend.
There's been quite a bit of steam with that.
There has been a lot more than what I expected. I'll admit to that, yes.
The last part of this right here is what Jordan wrote on that article. Expect such fluidity to continue, in part because a number of fans and drivers believe NASCAR visits too many road courses annually, combined with a tepid racing. The expectation is that the 2024 schedule could feature fewer road courses, with the strong possibility that Indianapolis reverts back to the oval.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be surprised if there is a push from Speedway Motorsports to shift the fall Charlotte playoff race off of the Roval.
Which I wouldn't be all of that upset about.
I wouldn't either.
Just saying.
I wouldn't either.
And you and I have talked about this. How hard would it be? And I already know the answer to this. This is like being a lawyer. I already know the answer to this question, so I'm going to ask it anyway. How hard would it be to transfer or I guess reconfigure to go from the Indianapolis road course to the Brickyard? It'd take a little bit of work.
Just a little bit, maybe.
You'd have to move some barriers.
Maybe erasing some paint off the track. That's it.
Yeah, but otherwise, basically, you'd have to move some barriers.
Put a few barriers up. But Well, the thing that I've seen is Montreal will replace Fontana.
Which
the date.
We pretty much figure that Fontana's gone anyway. So
the date.
Yeah.
All right.
We're not saying the exact day, but yeah.
Move Sonoma to the West Coast swing.
Yes, which would absolutely make sense.
Run Green Sonoma. Well, it's called Green Sonoma. All the grass is green, and it's very picturesque facility.
Springtime, in other words.
Springtime. Yeah, simply put.
Move it up.
All right. Leave the West Coast swing in one. Get rid of the godforsaken clash at the football stadium. Get rid of it. Put the clash at Rockingham.
Yeah. You know what? I sincerely have zero problem with that at all.
Put the clash at Rockingham.
Good grief.
Chicago, this street race garbage. Let's call it that. Street race garbage.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't even seen it yet. And sorry, you're going to have to go a long way to impress
When you
me.
see on social media of crew chiefs is already doing 7-point shakedowns, simulations of Chicago, and they're on their response on social media is.
I was going to ask if that was Chicago we're speaking of now.
Chicago.
Yeah.
If it truly ends up being one and done, that's either I say move it back to Chicagoland or put it back at Mark, Road America.
Ooh. Hey, there's a thought.
Oh, that's a great thought. You never should have left Road America because how popular was that?
Oh, gosh, it was great. Why are we messing with things that aren't? Why? NASCAR.
Bubba went, duh.
I'm not making my migraine better, so I'm going to let it go alone.
NASCAR, I'm just going to ask this question again. Why do you continue to fix things that aren't broken?
Well, you see.
Duh.
Mm-hmm. Somebody feeling like they need to justify their paycheck.
I wonder why. I wonder if we need to look in Morse code for that.
Yeah, I wonder. On to more serious news, and I hate to say this, but hey, at the same time, well deserved. An era coming to an end. Kerry Tharp set to step down as the president of the second NASCAR home for Matt and I, Darlington Raceway. 66-year-old Tharp, as you see him right there on CRN Live on YouTube, announced his pending retirement earlier this week, told the Associated Press, quote, "It's a great run. I just had this feeling that it was to experience another chapter in our lives." He's been at the track, over the track since 2015. He'll be there for the remainder of the 2023 season, overseeing the Southern 500, the beginning of the Cup Series playoffs. Thanks to NASCAR.com for that picture that you see right there. Thing about it is, Tharp was somewhat of a unlikely choice to be the track president. He told the AP that at one point in time he had very little to no interest in NASCAR, saying, quote, "I'd change the channel if it were on TV." And then added, quote, "The last 8 years giving me the opportunity to become a race president, it's unheard of." He was working in sports for most of his career. He worked for 26 years in college sports communications, first at the University of South Carolina in 1985, and then becoming the man in 1992. He was the guy that actually hired Lou Holtz as the Gamecocks football head coach in 1999. NASCAR then hired him in early 2005. He got a baptism by fire right here at Talladega, as it turns out, when he was coming in, and he was going to be the media moderator for the drivers in a question and answer session. I love this story. He said he was searching for his parking spot at Talladega when he accidentally cut off a golf cart driven by the soon-to-be two-time champion Tony Stewart, who Tharp recalled, quote, "Let me know what he thought about me, both verbally and visually." That's smoke, ladies and gentlemen. He got to know Jim Hunter, a predecessor of his at Darlington. He said mentored him, and in 2015 was asked about taking over Darlington. He said he accepted the job and brought about the popular Throwback Weekend. Was one of NASCAR's return to. He was also the track that hosted NASCAR's return to racing after the now infamous 2020 COVID-19 shutdown, which was, well,
a joke.
Yeah, I was going to say something more, but it's a family show. Hosted 2 races in 1 week. 0 fans in the grandstands. You want to talk about a weird look. You and I had been there the previous 2 years. We saw what the grandstands looked like full. We saw what the camping grounds looked like full. To see them all empty was
the drone shot with just the haulers in the infield.
God, it was eerie.
That was eerily pathetic.
Yeah, it was.
Eerily pathetic.
So we wish nothing but the best for Kerry Tharp, our one-time and unfortunately now appears not to be future once and future boss. And we wish nothing but the best to the person who will take over for him in that role. And he's not the only one apparently stepping down, you found out, Matt.
Yeah, it looks like, too, as well, Watkins Glen track president Michael Printup is retiring as well.
Wow. We don't have a picture of him. I'm sorry. This was news that broke literally last night.
His retirement looks like it's at the effective the end of the month.
Oh, wow. So he's really not even going to be there for the race coming up in August.
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, then. Well, we wish you nothing but the best, Michael. Hope everything is okay. I mean, if he's leaving that fast, that tells me something's going on. We don't know. We're not prying, and we're certainly not going to speculate, but we hope everything goes well.
Hey, ISC, I'll go run a track for you.
Certainly.
I'll gladly go run a track for you.
I don't know about New York.
Yeah, I'll go to South Carolina. You send somebody else to New York.
Matt and I will help. We'll both. All three of us will do it. Let's see here. What else we got? How about let's switch over to the Superstar Racing Experience. Speaking of Tony Stewart, the cars are made to look the same, save for the colors. Obviously, you got to figure out a way to be able to tell them apart. The engines are pretty much all built to the same specs. All of this is in order to try and put things into the hands of the drivers to see who's going to win the races and win the title. Even the fire suits generally are quite similar to one another. But there is personalities that the drivers can get to come out in some way, shape, or form. One way to do it, the helmet. Thanks to the SRX Twitter page, you can see this pic of co-founder and first-year champion Tony Stewart's helmet on CRN Live on YouTube. It's a Poland-designed silver, gray, and light blue helmet when the light shines on it. There you go, Matt. This might be the first time you've seen it. It's kind of a neat-looking hat or helmet. What do you think? You okay with that?
I like it. Yeah.
Okay.
The silver and blue looks really good.
Wait until you see the next slide. Go ahead, John. When the lights are shining on it, you got the silver, black, and all that. Yeah, when the lights go out, highlights in glow in the dark.
I like it.
That'll be different. He's slated to wear that in all 6 races in the upcoming SRX season, set to begin right about a month from now. So, John giving you another look at the two.
Well,
it's
I bet
different.
That's one helmet he won't throw.
Well, knowing Smoke, you get him mad enough, I bet you he does.
I wouldn't put it past him because he can always go buy another one.
That's true. Yeah. You could always get Poland Designs, work up another one for him. Yeah. Let's see, to the National Hot Rod Association. Only really one bit of news here, but it is pretty significant in the fact that a milestone was reached. And yeah, he didn't claim the overall event win at the Thunder Valley Nationals. About an hour ago, though, we did note that Antron Brown was able to get to the finals and in the process marked a career milestone. Antron Brown claimed his 800th round win of his storied career, and he's only the 6th NHRA driver to accomplish that. He joins the all-time leader John Force, along with Greg Anderson, Warren Johnson, Tony Schumacher, and Ron Capps in the 800-plus category. Now, John Force, talked about John Force. The man is 72 or 3?
74.
74. I'm a little behind on my aging. John Force is 74 years old. He's still racing. Heck, he made it to the finals at the Thunder Valley Nationals. So he's still claiming round wins. He's not only the all-time leader in NHRA round wins, he's the only one with more than 1,000 round wins to his credit at 1,432 and counting. Easily besting Greg Anderson's 919. Warren Johnson sits at 874, I should say. Tony Schumacher's closing in, 871. Ron Capps is at 866, so he's closing in as well. Brown's accomplishment a little bit bittersweet. He has had an event win at every track on the Top Fuel circuit, except at the Thunder Valley Nationals. He has not claimed an event win at Bristol. Just for those of you who are curious, the next driver to make 800, well, the closest right now to that is Doug Kalita. Doug's got a little ways to go. He's got 744 to his credit.
A little bit.
Think about that. 1,432 round wins in your career.
It's a lot. That is a lot.
Ouch. Congratulations, John. Jeez. We're going to come back here after this, and we got a subplot coming up on the NTT IndyCar Series race at Road America this weekend. It's interesting because this little subplot that Chi-Town Mark knows about, I'm sure, might mean that we're going to set new speed records at Road America. We'll detail what the story is next on CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Two tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into the show. Steve West along with Matt Nicholson and producer John Myers. And I will say this, Mark, for Chi-Town Mark, who is commenting on our CRN Live on YouTube feed, I would love to go to Road America. I think it would be an absolutely cool place to go check out a race.
Put me at Kettle Bottoms, and I'm good to go.
There you go. And that's where the NTT IndyCar Series is this weekend, Road America. And if you're looking for something of a subplot there, it is the fact that that really long, 4-mile long, road course underwent a complete repave this off-season. And that likely means new speed records for that series at the track. IndyCar and Road America dates back to 1982. Current speed record for IndyCar there dates to 2000. This is when the series were split between IRL and CART, remember? But it is the speed record. It was set by Dario Franchitti in qualifying, 1 minute, 39.866 seconds. Folks, that's fairly hustling around a 4-mile long track. Just saying. Since CART and IRL got back together, 2008, fastest time made, Elio Castroneves. Lap of 1 minute, 41.3007 seconds. Last year was even slower. By the way, the Castroneves time, that was 2017. Last year, Alexander Rossi got the pole at this track, 144 plus. They knew it was time for new pavement. How fast is the new pavement going to make things? Time is going to tell. But we'll say this. It is notable that the last time they fully repaved Road America came for the 1995 season. Speeds from 1994 to 1995 picked up 5 miles per hour. Does that mean that we're going to break speed records? I don't know. Remember, technology has gotten better as well. Tire technology's better. The cars are a little bit more aerodynamic. Hold the ground a little better. Could we go 144 to 139?
Let's just see here.
Could it happen? Now, they've had practices.
You read my mind, West. I'm pulling it up.
I saw practices. I anticipated this. Practices yesterday, the fastest speed that I saw. And granted, this is practice speed. This is not necessarily qualifying trim.
Mm-hmm.
Practice speeds tend to be more in race trim. They were in the 141 zone. So they did pick up from last year's qualifying time. Again, what did they do in qualifying? We'll see.
Time will tell.
Indeed it will. The old clock never lies.
This will load up.
You having fun over there?
If it'll load up.
Okay, good luck. Over to Formula One here, and a couple of weeks ago we talked about how the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in Italy obviously was called off due to the historic flooding in and around the region. It led to many monetary donations coming in from around the world. Well, there's another fundraising effort that came down when the trophies that would have been awarded to the first, second, and third place finishers and the top manufacturer were auctioned off. You're about to see an older version, I think 2020 version of these trophies on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of racefans.com. That's pretty much what those trophies look like.
Is that an outline of the track?
It is.
Okay.
The 4 trophies, we talked about it last week. They were going to be auctioned off. Those 4 trophies netted in just under 250,000 euros, or about 310,000 American dollars for flood relief in that area. The flooding cost 14 people their lives. 36,000 people were left homeless. Formula One obviously canceled the race. They donated 1 million euros, which was matched by Ferrari. In addition to the 4 trophies mentioned and that you see on CRN Live on YouTube, the Pirelli Pole Award and one of the bottles of the Ferrari Trento Champagne that would have been sprayed by one of the podium finishers were also auctioned off. Formula One F1 Authentics ensured those were the actual trophies and the bottle, and reported that the biggest moneymaker was not the first, second, or third place trophy. It was actually the Constructors' Trophy. Brought in almost $90,000, while the first place trophy was next at over $75,000. I'm not going to give you the euro money because, well, I don't care. All trophies in the bottle were signed by all 20 Formula One drivers and all 10 team bosses. That happened 2 weeks ago at the Spanish Grand Prix and then taken in for safekeeping, and that's why they could be authenticated. Pretty cool-looking trophies. Not sure I'd spend $90,000 for one.
Yeah, 141.77.
But it's a great thing.
Yeah.
141.77 was the practice time yesterday.
There's about half a second between first and 10th. 141.77
pretty tight.
P1. 142.21 is 10th.
That's pretty tight. Okay. Silly season seems to be an all-year thing now in pretty much all forms of racing. For example, one of the first things that Sir Lewis Hamilton was asked upon arriving in Canada for this weekend's race was his contract situation with Mercedes. Spoiler alert, no real change. Haas F1 team principal Gunther Steiner was also asked if his team was thinking of making any changes for driving in 2024. Steiner said, I'm quote-unquote pretty happy as things are.
I am pretty happy with how things are with running third.
He said, quote, driver market-wise, I think we're in a moment where we're pretty happy with what we've got. Obviously, we want to announce our drivers as soon as possible so we don't have to hang around like last year a long time telling you guys it'll be next race, and, well, then it gets boring. Kevin Magnussen, as you know, returned to Haas F1 in 2022, replacing Nikita Mazepin due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And then in something of a surprise move, they ended up replacing Mick Schumacher with the veteran Nico Hülkenberg after the 2022 season. Initially, it seemed to pay dividends, but, well, Haas F1 has stumbled since. They're currently, right now, dealing with Nico Hulkenberg sitting 12th in driver points with 6. Kevin Magnussen's got 2. And Haas F1, which at least has done better than last year when it comes to points, and certainly much better than 2 years ago when they got a big goose egg. They still haven't scored 10 points on the year yet.
No. Not
Got to change, boys. Got to change. Mm-hmm. We saw what happened at Spain, at least in qualifying. They qualified both cars well, but they stumbled during the race. And they said that that was a track that should have been to their liking. Qualifying seemed to show it. A high-speed track.
Yep.
Montreal, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, seems to be another track that would kind of suit what they're looking for. But here's the thing. Just because you do well in qualifying doesn't mean you do well in the race.
Ding, ding, ding.
Pick it up, Haas F1. Pick it up. If you think you're consistently, and I saw this from Nico Hulkenberg. Nico Hulkenberg likes where he is at Haas F1 to the point where he said, we have, the team, the potential to be a solid, if not leader, of the mid-pack. But that's a step up from where you are right now. You got to be a lot more consistent than what you are right now, Haas F1, and you ain't it yet.
A leader of the mid-pack?
You've got everybody has $145 billion cap.
Yep. That is leveled off now. Everybody's playing under those same rules.
But
this isn't like the old days where Mercedes and Ferrari and Red Bull were spending $250 million per car. Everybody's at $145 million per car now.
But yet, that chokes me up even saying this. Yet you're happy with running mid-pack. Why are you on the grid?
I will say this. Being the leader of the mid-pack would still be a step up from where they've been the last couple of years.
Think.
And yeah, it would be nice if they would figure out a way to step up and try to become a championship leader. But right now, with Aston Martin holding some aspirations, but you want to talk about needing to be consistent, it's really Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull generally at the top of the heap in Formula One. And we also know this, Haas F1 is a Ferrari customer, so it's not like Ferrari's giving Haas F1 the very best of what they got. Sorry, guys, they're not. So something's going to happen, and something's going to have to happen along the lines. And I'm not saying it's going to have to happen personnel-wise. They're going to have to hit upon something that makes their cars much more consistently able to handle different kinds of courses. Haas F1 is sitting there talking about how, we're great at the high-speed tracks like Spain. Well, how is it that Red Bull can go from the more intricate, really, really tight, slower courses and dominate, but yet turn around and go to Spain or go to Montreal or any of these other high-speed courses and still dominate? What are you missing? What have they got that you haven't? You need to figure that out. And they haven't yet. And that's why, well, they're kind of getting shoved to the back of the pack.
Well, here's my thing.
Yeah.
I'm bringing.
Isn't the goal of racing to come in first?
Ding.
Yeah. Isn't it?
And if you're happy being the leader of the mid-pack, what are you, like Matt said, what the heck are you doing on the track?
I would agree.
Set your goal a little higher.
And I didn't give you the entirety of the Gunther Steiner quotes. One would hope, or Nico Hulkenberg for that matter, one would hope that Nico Hulkenberg meant, I think we have the capability of being a leader of the mid-pack as we begin our progress towards trying to become a championship contender. But I didn't see those last words.
Give me 5 laps at Imola in a Red Bull. Give me 5 laps in a Haas. And give me 5 laps in a Williams. And I'm going to tell you real quick which car I'm going to be in. I'm going to want to be in.
Sure.
Oh, I'm happy to be on the grid. No. Mm-mm. Put me in the car with that Red Bull on the side of the side of the side pods and give me Christian Horner on the radio, that's why I'm going to want to be real quick because they set the bar.
And here's the thing, and I'm not the driver of the show. That's Matt. I can pretty much tell you, Matt, who has never set foot in a Formula One car in his life, if you did give him 5 laps in each of those 3, he could step out of the car and immediately tell you the difference between what Red Bull has, what Haas F1 has, and what Williams has, and what they don't.
It's going to be like a high-dollar version of The Bachelor. I'm going to take my helmet off, and I'm going to lay it right there on the top of the car. Red Bull, will you accept my helmet? Sorry, Williams, Haas, you got to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you know real quick.
Got to step it up. What we have seen about some of these teams, and Aston Martin has done this fantastically, and we're starting to see it a little bit out of Sauber as well, Alfa Romeo. They're going and they're grabbing the people from Red Bull, and they're bringing them to their team and saying, what you did there, we want to do here. You have a culture there around your winning organization. We want that kind of culture here. It's why whenever teams win the NFL Super Bowl, the NBA championship, Major League Baseball's World Series, college football national champions, whatever it is, it's why all the other teams that want to be the champion go and raid the team that was the champion, be it coaches or players in free agency or now in college, the NIL or the transfer portal. Do the same thing. Haas F1, you have the ability to do this. I know that Gene Haas would love to have this Formula One team stand on its own, and it's getting to that point now where it can. They're attracting the right sponsors, the title sponsors that are going to go in and allow them to be able to make money on their own, and Gene Haas doesn't have to spend a whole heck of a lot of money out of his Haas Automation money to be able to make that float, if you will. But Gene, you and Gunther need to get together, and you need to go find the engineers, the technical directors, the aerodynamic specialists, and all those people who have been making things work. How about at Ferrari? And you need to be bringing them over.
Yeah, because look what it's done to Aston Martin, poaching a few Red Bull people.
It's worked.
Look what it's doing.
Fantastically. And for that consulting fee, you can send us a check. The drama between the FIA and Formula One continues. We noted on the show last week the time to submit a letter of interest for owning a new Formula One team to the FIA has officially ended. Well, they're going over the letters, the FIA is, to see if they can recommend anybody for approval. FIA officials will have a say, as do the commercial rights holders of Formula One, Liberty Media. Thing about it is, for Formula One CEO Stefano Domenicali, he'd like to see things remain exactly as they are. In other words, I like my little piece of cake, and I don't want to cut it into any more slices. Got to talking to Formula1.com this past week. Domenicali said when he was asked what is the ideal number of teams, he got really, really long-winded. Stefano, you running for office?
Yeah.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy this little story as spun by Domenicali, quoted by me. This is a very interesting question because there are different positions. There are also legal implications as to what we have to say. I think, to be honest, if the contest, talking about Formula One as a whole, is growing, I think 10 teams is more than enough to create a show or the business and the attention that we want to see on the track. There is an evaluation going on today that involves the FIA and us to make the right call for the future. This is something that is also connected to the future discussion that will happen with the renewal of the Concord Agreement that we need to remember is expiring in 2025, so we still have a long way to go.
And a short time to get there.
But it's an evaluation that we need to take, considering in this period of time where there were teams coming in, getting out with zero value. Now the teams are stable, very profitable, very strong in terms of technical capability to be competitive on the track. Therefore, the right answer is, we're actually going to get an answer. No, wait. Therefore, the right answer is that in the next months, it will be a very important point of discussion that we need to tackle. That is, do we need to stay with 10? Do we need to have more teams? Or can we give an exemption to a future possible team to be really very, very strong that can join F1? This is all a topic that will be part of a discussion for the future. That's why I asked if Stefano Domenicali was thinking about a political office run.
All that to say nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten more direct answers out of the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, who loves word salads and getting to no point whatsoever.
Never forget. Never forget. God save the Queen.
Roll Tide, baby. Let's take a break here, because here's the thing. I'll give credit to Formula1.com. They realized exactly what we just realized. Domenicali gave them a word salad that had no nutritional value whatsoever. So they asked him again, what's the ideal number of teams in Formula One? We'll tell you what Stefano Domenicali finally admitted to when we come back on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Yeah, making a run to the checkered flag of this weekend's edition of CRN. I'm Steve West, along with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers, talking about how Formula1.com got to talking about F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali, and after hemming and hawing and throwing out words and more words, he never actually answered the question. So the reporter for Formula1.com asked it again. pushing for an absolute answer about whether Domenicali personally wants to see another team or teams in Formula One or keep it at 10. Finally, Domenicali responded, quote, "No, I don't think so. That's a personal opinion. I need to say that because it's something that you have to, that if you have a good show, well, 20 cars is more than enough." Here's the thing. I love racing. Really, in just about any form. Oval, road track, open wheel, stock car, drag racing. If it's on, I'll watch it at least for a little bit. And I'll watch Formula One. I like Formula One. You want to know what I don't like? What we're seeing right now. 20 cars is more than enough. Well, here's the thing. Really what you've got is 19 cars and Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, you're not. Not even close.
19 cars and Max Verstappen doesn't really make for a great show, does it? When Max is winning literally everything that's out there, and congratulations to him. If you can do it, knock yourself silly. But when you're winning every single race out there by 15, 20, 30 seconds, it's not really all that entertaining. And you can tell when things are not really all that exciting up at the front. Fox Sports, whether it's Cup Series, Xfinity, trucks, they'll start paying a lot of attention to what's going on in the rest of the field.
Yep.
NBC, if it's IndyCar, they'll pay attention to what's going on in the rest of the field.
Yep.
Sky Sports does the exact same thing. That's where ABC and ESPN get their coverage, is Sky Sports from Britain. And they're paying a lot of attention to everything that's going on 10th, 11th, and 12th. You know, where the actual racing is, as opposed to the 12, 13, and 20-second gaps between first and second and third.
Well, we got to watch 10th, 11th, and 12th fight between Valtteri Bottas, Zhou Guanyu, and Lance Stroll because Max Verstappen is in Toronto right now.
Exactly.
Pulling away.
So here's the thing, Stefano. If you had a great show week after week, I would agree with you that 20 cars is probably quite enough. But when Max Verstappen is leading every single thing that he possibly can and blistering the field by half a minute, sometimes more, can we technically call that a good show?
No.
Now, devil's advocate side of things. Would adding a team or two, in other words, 2 or 4 cars to the grid, starting grid, would that change things? Not necessarily. What it would guarantee is that it would crowd the tracks a little bit more and not allow Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton from a few years ago to have such an easy run through to gain a 30-second lead. Again, maybe he still would. I don't know. But you know what? I don't really have a problem with the idea of adding more teams. I really don't.
I don't either. But you got to create more parity.
Yeah. I think the cap, the budget cap for the teams is a start. You might need to put in a floor.
Instead of 145, you may need to take it to 100. Ooh. Even though Red Bull's going to find a way to maximize that 100.
Yeah, they would.
Take it to 100.
Man, I'd like to see this thing. Coming up in September at the famed Nürburgring course. I'm talking about the big long one. I'm not talking about the Formula One course that they ran just a few years ago. I'm talking about the big, long, humongous Nürburgring course. Red Bull's coming to town. They're going to host a Red Bull Formula event. It's going to include the team breaking out their RB7 race car for the first time since it was piloted to a championship by the man who's actually going to get a chance to get behind the wheel of it again. That's Sebastian Vettel. He and his former Red Bull teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, who, of course, is now back with the team, they're going to drive the historic Red Bull racers around that famous long Nürburgring course. Here's the fun part, and why you were seeing Max Verstappen there a moment ago. According to PlanetF1.com, the defending two-time champion racer Max Verstappen had been told by the man he's standing next to, in other words, high up people at Red Bull, stay away. Not just you can't drive, stay away. Verstappen told media as he arrived in Canada for this weekend's race, quote, "I wanted to do it, but it was not allowed by Helmut Marko, the guy who heads Red Bull Racing." Verstappen went on to say he knew that I would try to go to the limits. If I got into the car, I would have loved to do it. Thanks to PA Images for the picture on CRN Live on YouTube right there. And here's the thing. Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo are going to try and push this thing to the limits as well. There's no doubt about it. They're going to go out and have a good time.
Yeah, I mean,
they're going to do everything they can not to crack up the car.
Do you think Daniel Ricciardo's not going to do the same thing Max Verstappen would have done?
Absolutely.
I mean,
but you know what? Here's the difference. Max Verstappen is leading Formula One points. Daniel Ricciardo, he's the Red Bull reserve driver. And Sebastian Vettel's retired.
Yeah.
That's your difference.
Yeah.
Somewhere, somebody, please get us video. If it doesn't get shown live somewhere, I want to see these cars running around the full Nürburgring track.
Hey,
that'd just be too cool to see.
Dr. Marco. I'll wear a size 58 Euro Puma fire suit. 10 and a half boots. Mm-hmm. And wear a size medium glove. I'll see you in Germany in September.
Love it. One more note here, and this takes us to Formula E. And this really is not current news here. This is speculation. Obviously, Ford Motor Company is expanding out their global motorsports program. Why not? Why not, with the interest in electric cars, though, go to Formula E? Ford Performance Director Mark Rushbrook addressed that very question when he took the wraps off of a new Dakar Rally Division pickup truck with the Ranger pickup truck line. This is brand new. I guess this is this the first time Ford's been involved, or is this re-entering for them into Dakar?
I guess the first time.
Okay. So Ford's expanding out there. We've talked about the fact that they're getting into Formula One beginning in 2026. Granted, they're not actually building a Formula One engine for Red Bull. They're just taking the current Red Bull engine, technically built by Honda, and slapping a Ford label on there. But technically, they're getting into Formula One. They're getting into this. Well, I guess it's a good question. Why not go to Formula E? Rushbrook said, quote, "Where we don't have the opportunity to race in what we think is a good or relevant full electric series, we take advantage of those demonstrators," he said, highlighting things like the Mach-E 1400 program, the Mustang Cobra Jet 1400 drag car, and plans for something called Supervan 4. If it's anything like Superman 4, that could be horrible.
Yeah, it's going to be a dud.
I don't know what Supervan 4 is, but I'll wait until it comes out. So why concentrate on those instead of Formula E? Rushbrook noted, quote, "There are no rules. They are rolling innovation labs," talking about his demonstrators. The rolling innovation labs that allow us to learn about high-performance, fully electric vehicles that take that learning back to our road car programs, and also to take the electrified learning over to Formula One, because, remember, Formula One is a hybrid powertrain series. He continued on by saying, quote, "Obviously, if we wanted to be in Formula E, we would be in Formula E. When we look at the different reasons why we're in motorsports, we feel that for full electrification, there's a better return in terms of what we're getting from those fully electric demonstrators than what's available from Formula E." It's not a direct knock on Formula E. They put on a lot of great racing. There has been some very entertaining racing this year. But what we see for the spend that we can put into these demonstrators, in other words, for the investment we can put into these demonstrators, with no rules to limit what we can or cannot do, we can learn exactly what we want in the way that we want and put on a very compelling story in the way that we want to. My comment wasn't meant to knock any of the fully electric series. It's just that we didn't think that they're right for us, for what we want to learn and the story we want to tell. Now, that being said, Formula E does have, oh, that's right, more than 10 entries. Formula One. Just noting. I've asked this question before. I'm going to ask it again. And it's, truth be told, it's about time that Ford, and now maybe GM, again, Andretti Cadillac, anybody? Cadillac Andretti, anybody? this seems to be the perfect opportunity. You've got this program at Ford called the EcoBoost engine. 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders, not necessarily 8s anymore, that are turbocharged. In some cases, twin turbocharged. Ford Raptor, anybody? Remind me what they do in IndyCar and Formula One. That's right, V6 with turbochargers. 2 of them in the case of IndyCar. Why isn't Ford in IndyCar?
I've yet to figure that out. Now that they're coming back into F1 and very wisely partnering up with the top echelon team,
yeah,
I give it by 28 they'll be back in IndyCar.
Okay. I'd like to see it. I think it's a natural fit. I really do. And if we're going to insist upon going down this road of full electrification of all your vehicles, which I don't think is technically feasible at this particular point in time, and considering how much money General Motors just invested in their plant for building V8 engines, I don't think GM has any plans to abandon the internal combustion engine anytime really soon. But if we're going to do this, the best place to do it is to go racing. We've seen this really since the invention of the automobile. To figure out the limits, to figure out what these cars can and can't do, you want to take them to the limits. And to take them to the limits, doing it on the street isn't necessarily the best way to do it. That's why we build racetracks, which does create the interesting meme of you get a whole bunch of street racers and everybody complains about them, so we go out and we build a track. And we build the track and everybody goes racing there. And then everybody starts building homes around it, and those people start complaining about it, and the track goes away and we get back to street racing.
It's too loud.
See the weird vicious cycle that we're in, boys and girls?
Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville.
Fairgrounds.
But anyway.
Hey, that's why you see racetracks literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. As Nashville Fairground Speedway was at one time, until everybody started building their houses around it. Anyway, that being said, racing is a platform for us to get better tire technology, to get better technology when it comes to the engines and the transmissions and the suspension and the ability for these to last longer at higher loads and last longer, therefore, when we go out on the road, interstate, which, granted, 459 sometimes feels like Talladega, but that's another story entirely, to make your road car last longer, to make the tires that you use last longer, to make the car's engine, transmission, and suspension and all the other stuff last longer so that you don't have to go buy a car every 2 years because, well, it just fell apart as I was going down the road. Again, perfect opportunity, in my mind, for Ford to get into IndyCar racing. You want to expand your global platform, expand it with the racing that's right in your own backyard. You're in the NHRA, you're in NASCAR. Go to IndyCar. Makes sense. I love how the fact that Chevrolet's still going to be involved in IndyCar while at the same time 100% backing Andretti under the Cadillac brand. Now, do you really think that the Cadillac and the Chevrolet looks are really all that different?
Nope.
Sorry, they're not going to be. But GM is fully behind that. And they should be. And Ford should be. And quite literally, every other automaker on the planet should be. Because it only does us that much better for these cars and the technology over the course of time. Okay. Commenting done. Tell me where I'm wrong. Feel free. I'd be happy for it.
You're not.
All right.
I mean, you're not.
Let's see. Not a big slate of racing this weekend, as we mentioned. Tomorrow, got Formula One kicking off, and then shortly after that, IndyCar. Both of those will be on the cable channels, ESPN and USA, respectively. But either way, it's going to be fun to have some watching of racing on Father's Day. Hope you enjoy the racing, and we'll, of course, be back next week for much more of this commentary. We'll see whether we get highly emotional about it again or not.
Yeah.
You never know. But we have a good time with it. Enjoy the racing. And you never know, Chi-Town Mark, one of these days we might just show up on your front door and go, hey, We're able to afford the trip, but we can't afford a place to stay. Can you put us up? Road America.
Elkhart Lake, here we come.
We would love to do it. Y'all have a great Father's Day weekend. Be safe, be careful, whatever it is that you're doing. Or if you're staying home, heck, just enjoy yourself. We'll talk to you again next weekend right here on the Championship Racing Network. Don't accept any substitutions.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.